One of my absolute fondest automotive related memories in my life has to do with this car. Well, not this one, but the Subaru Outback. Way back in 1996, I got to drive my first brand new car. It was a red, manual transmission equipped Subaru Outback. And to this day, it remains one of the absolute highlights of my adult life when it comes to cars. Anyway, I mean, look, just to express to you how serious and how impactful that event was, it's up there with the first BMW M3 I ever drove, a brand new one, an E46. It's even up there. I almost got chills just thinking about these events, but when I drove my first brand new Porsche 911, a 996, and right alongside 1996 Subaru Outback. The Outback itself simply represented everything that I loved about cars as a whole. I've been a wagon fan forever. I've mentioned it. Manual transmission, all-wheel drive, rugged good looks. It just had everything going for it. And what's brilliant about Subaru, much of what's brilliant about Subaru, is that they're always very true to their fans. Essentially, they do have the most loyal customers in the business, although they're kind of playing around with WRX fans at the moment, but that'll be for another review and story in the future. But the Outback, I mean, it was great, which became amazing, and then became fabulous, then kind of went good, and now it's back to being just fabulous. And above all that, there's this brand new 2022 Outback Wilderness, which in my mind, had Subaru introduced an Outback with, this, that, some 20 years ago, say about 6 years after they introduced the original Outback in 1995, could have possibly slowed our madness or insatiable desire for SUVs, because this is one of the original crossovers, right? It does everything. It's got the rugged good looks. It's got the increased ride height. It's got the cladding. It looks tough. And when you're sitting behind the wheel, you're sitting high. Someone at Subaru probably had that idea in mind way back in 1999 or 2000. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, what's important is that it's here now. And frankly, I mean, I've confessed to you that I love the Subaru Outback, and this version it's all but perfect. Look, it's kind of stupid. I mean, for 12 years now, this car has had one flaw, which isn't a flaw anymore, but I won't get over it, and apparently I'm not alone when it comes to that, and it's the transmission. You know about it. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a few minutes. But this car, I absolutely love everything about it. Everything except for that one thing. But anyhow, look, we're going to do the usual walk around of this 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness, point out what makes it different, and then we'll take it for a drive. And that's where this car kind of really comes into its own. I mean, the design is exceptional, in my opinion, of course. But the driving experience is just the perfect balance between SUV and car. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, as I always do. So here we go. Let's just jump right into styling. I mean, the Wilderness can never be mistaken for anything else than a Wilderness in the Outback line, and altogether this car could never be mistaken for anything else than an Outback. There's just something so right about what this car looks like. It's really an Outback Plus OEM style, and I reiterate the fact that had this come out 20 years ago, I don't know, they would have sold even more vehicles. Pricing Starts at $26,945 for a base Outback in the US, $31,195 in Canada. Top trim is $39,945 in the US. Premier XT in Canada is the top one, $44,195. The Wilderness, this in the US, $36,995. And in Canada, as it sits before you, $41,995. Now, the base Outback includes eyesight, heated steering wheel, and a bunch of other stuff. But then when you step into the Wilderness, well, this is when you get everything you kind of see here. I mean, all this black cladding, the black 17-inch wheels, black bumpers, the anodized copper trims, both on the inside and the outside, obviously the badging. It just works so well. And yes, this color, geyser blue, is unique to the Wilderness, and I'm convinced that it will be very, very popular among those that will select Wilderness. Look, the plastic cladding it works on this car. The wheel well, the fender flares, all that, it's fine. I mean, it's a disaster on the WRX, but that's me. And the bumpers and everything else. And another comment, I suppose, although I've only seen the Forester Wilderness in pictures, it doesn't work as it does on the Outback. I may revise that sentiment when I get to drive it, hopefully sometime this winter. The Wilderness in Canada as well is the first trim that you get access to the 2.4 liter turbocharged engine to replace the naturally aspirated 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine. Oh, you also get the increased ride height. Yeah, overall the car is about an inch taller than the regular Outback, and there are a number of other features that separate this car mechanically anyway, or technologically, or anyway, than the regular Outback. So let's keep going with the tour. Okay, so power hatch is standard with the model, as are front and second row heated seats anyway. So that reveals 920 liters of trunk space, which is, it's wide, it's deep, it's easily accessible. I mean, look, I'm gonna complain. This is kind of cheap-ish. I mean, if you get it wrong, it pops out. Well, obviously I'm getting it right because it's for the camera, but it pops out all the time. They could have done something better with that. Now, this is a big vehicle. Like, I think we'll have to agree that this is a big mid-size vehicle. Well, they all are today, I suppose. So the kids are having a great time riding along in here. There's tons of room. Like the seat back here, I just realized I didn't push it back to a normal position, but look, there's plenty of legroom for both of them. Visibility is actually really good. I mean, large glass surfaces. You won't fit anyone between the two seats, however, unless it's another child. I mean, the interior of the Outback, the current generation Outback and the Legacy is tops. There we go, tops. Compared to anything Subaru did in the past, which was, to put it nicely, mediocre at best. The material for the seats, actually, this is unique to the Outback Wilderness. There's a rugged cloth, leathery, kind of washable surface. I forget the name, which is terrible, but it really works. The seats are very comfortable. And here, a few little touches that let you know that this is a Wilderness. There's that anodized copper. You see it there in a shifter as well. It's great. And getting in and out, as you get a little bit older, the extra ground clearance kind of really makes it easy. I mean, essentially you just slide right in like so. Okay, let's start her up. So here's the 11.6-inch display, which Subaru is talking a lot about when it comes to their most recent cars, including the WRX. It's not, the Wilderness is not the first version that gets this. I think it's the Touring, or the second trim from the bottom in Canada. I guess we can keep focusing on this here. I mean, everything is on the screen, or nearly. Always a little difficult to work through the camera. But you have all your menus, your settings. You just have to remember to access your menus via the screen. The only things you can do with physical buttons are your temp settings, front defrost, rear defrost, and at least there's a tune and a volume button for the radio. Everything else is via up here or down here, right? So if the screen kind of doesn't want to work in the future, I've had problems with Apple CarPlay, and that's cabled Apple CarPlay. It's been going on the fritz, or has been on a few occasions. I don't know what to say. I mean, this is just the reality, whether we like it or not, that this is the present. It's far from the future because it's been going on for a number of years. If you ever get lost, you just got to remember that that's the home button. And then you have to remember where your icons are if you want to work the radio and all of that. Your car settings is kind of cool up here. And if you're in the home setting, you can actually access, see, there's the dual X mode. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a few moments. What else can I say? You have your digital readout in the middle, 2 analog settings. Storage is, this I have to show you too. I don't know if that's gonna, unfortunately, that's the front camera, which can be useful for off-roading. That's the rear camera. The resolution is horrible, unfortunately, but visibility is really good, thankfully. So yeah, Subaru, the most modern versions built on the global platform, just have everything going for them. Look at the size of this glass, the amount of visibility you have to go around any section and corner. Look, this is a really nice place to be, and it just gets better as we drive. So let's do that. So yes, I did take the Outback Wilderness off-roading, and the footage you've just seen, well, the footage doesn't do the terrain any justice whatsoever. I mean, it was far, far deeper, rutted, except for that one section where I'm kind of driving on a little lane, if you will, no, that's really what that was. But the slower sections where I'm playing with articulation and driving over some ruts, I mean, it was far more accidented and challenging than it seemed. And honestly, truthfully, what I did do as well is, I was excessively careful not to damage the Wilderness, because I didn't want to be the guy to return the car with, this and that part broken or missing, as I have done in the past. Visually, the main difference, which is mechanically in a way related, between the regular Outback and the Wilderness is the ride height. So Subaru simply just put longer springs on this car to increase ground clearance by almost an inch. So I think it's like 8.6 for the regular car, which is still impressive, to 9.5 inches for the Wilderness. they've done a number of other things too. I mean, if you're gonna go and increase ride height and you're gonna go and promote the car as being, you know, a real capable off-roading machine, well, you have to put skid plates. So you have one for the diff, you have one, you know, essentially everything under the car is protected by decent skid plates. As I did mention, now, purely mechanically speaking, as I did mention, this is the first Outback in Canada that can be fitted with Subaru's now range-wide turbocharged 2.4 liter four-cylinder engine. In this car, it produces 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque, so that's between 2,000 and 4,800 RPM, and the horsepower comes out at 5,600 RPM. So what is surprising about such a big, long car is that it's actually quite quick. You'd have to expect that from this engine in this car. If you hear what's moving around in the back, it's my tripod, and I didn't secure it properly because, well, I forgot. So sending the power from 2.4 to Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system is a lineartronic CVT, which is a high torque version capable of handling the power. Which, look, it works absolutely fine. There are 8 gears. This one actually has paddle shifters, 8 programmed gears. And it does shift under, you know, depending on the amount of load or how hard you roll onto the throttle, it will shift or will hold. And look, the programming is fine. It works fine. I can just enter here that Subaru figures you're going to average about 10 liters per 100 kilometers of fuel. Reality is probably a little bit more than that. I'm averaging 12, which is probably has more to do with the way I drive than how efficient the powertrain can be. Now, about the powertrain, Subaru's done something else too to this car in order to make it more capable off-roading, and that is that they revised the rear differentials ratio. It's now a little bit taller, which will give you more torque to the wheels in order to enable the car to climb steeper inclines. Now, if memory serves, it is capable of climbing at an incline of up to 40 degrees thanks to this configuration. Now, the CVT as well has been partially recalibrated in order to match the front diffs ratio with the rears, so you have that extra kick in torque, wheel torque, not engine torque. A little bit of a difference there. So it's capable. I didn't do any 40-degree inclines, but I mean, on a few occasions you do see the rear wheel kind of hunting for some for something to grab onto, but it's not managing anything. Honestly, I didn't even use the dual mode, X mode, when I did my little off-roading trip, but you do have the snow dirt and you have deep snow and mud. So you have these options that the brain of the car will enable you to crawl or put the power to better use as you crawl through these tough situations. I mean, it can do it. I didn't even get nowhere near being caught. I didn't really hit any mud per se. It was mostly, you know, ruts and rocks. I don't know how many people will actually take their Outback Wilderness off-roading. But what Subaru did to the suspension, to the chassis, has actually made this car more pleasant on road. And this is something that I found in many off-road dedicated vehicles where the recalibrated, retuned, redesigned, whatever suspension actually makes the ride more comfortable. Now, I did mention, right, you know, you get almost an inch extra ground clearance, so I do feel like I'm sitting fairly high. I didn't measure or compare, you know, the driving sight lines and driver seat height to, say, an Ascent, but I'm sure it's as high, maybe even higher in this. And the ride quality is just superb. The extra long springs just, I don't know, make everything smoother, nicer, never floaty. Just comfortable, soothing, relaxed. And the all-terrain tires, well, you know, big sidewalls and 17-inch tires and wheels. I don't know, these off-road dedicated vehicles are the best urban driving vehicles. Maybe that's purposeful. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. But bottom line is that, as far as I'm concerned, this is the version of the Outback to get. Just don't all of you get it geyser blue. And it's a nice green. Even silver kind of works really nice with the blacked out everything and the anodized copper trimmings and stuff. Anyhow, look, it's an Outback. You probably know about it if you're watching this video. And you should just go right ahead and buy one. There are no two ways about it.